please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing if you don't mind. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I did want to just remain standing for one moment, since today was a national day of mourning for President Carter. I thought we should have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you all very much. So we will start with mayoral appointments.
Mayoral appointment.
Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, resolved that the mayor appoints and the board of trustees approve Aaron Greck to the position of part-time office assistant in the Department of Public Works at an hourly rate of $30 an hour, and that is effective January 10, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll go to board presentations, and I have a couple of presentations I would like to begin with. Do we have Manny Escobar here? Manny, come forward. I'd like to give you a proclamation. I should probably take it out of the plastic. It'll look a little better. Whereas the Village of Southampton wishes to recognize Emmanuel Manny Escobar for his service as Chief of the Southampton Fire Department, and whereas Manny has served as Second Assistant Chief from 2019 to 2020, First Assistant Chief from 2021 to 2022, and in 2023 was the first Latino person elected Chief of the Southampton Fire Department. And whereas Manny initiated a change in department bylaws to expand recruitment efforts, this change was successful in getting additional volunteers for our district. And whereas Manny has served with distinction as the fire chief of the Village of Southampton, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to the safety and protection of our community. And now therefore be it resolved that I, William M. Manger Jr., Mayor of the Village of Southampton, New York, along with the Board of Trustees as well as our village residents, do hereby recognize and appreciate Manny for his dedication and sacrifices for the betterment of our community. Does anyone have a camera to get pictures?
Yes.
Okay, good. Here we go. Get out here. Come on.
Will someone do some kind of changes? Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, the next one is for Kyle McGinnis. Kyle, you didn't think you were coming here for no reason tonight, did you? Okay. Whereas the Village of Southampton wishes to commend Kyle McGinnis for his service as Chief of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance, and whereas Kyle has served well over a decade as an emergency medical technician and paramedic for the village, and whereas Kyle has served as Second Assistant Chief from 2019 to 2020, First Assistant Chief from 2021 to 2022, and for the last 2 years as Chief with unwavering commitment to our community, and whereas Kyle has served with distinction as the Chief of Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance and proven that medical service teams are a vital public service and have grown to provide exceptional emergency out-of-hospital care. And now therefore be it resolved that I, William M. Manger Jr., Mayor of the Village of Southampton, New York, along with the Board of Trustees as well as our village residents, do hereby recognize and appreciate Kyle for his dedication and sacrifices for the betterment of our community. You want to say something?
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Appreciate all you do.
Okay, and now we will go to the recognition for the newly appointed 2025 Southampton Village Fire Department officers. We have as the chief, Paulus Walker, as first assistant chief, Richard Fowler, and as second assistant chief, Kenneth Lockhart. So, and does the rest of the fire department want to come in? Should I call them all off here? Captains Jason Paremba, Patrick Collins, Peter Feeney, Patrick Terry, and Theodore Lachik. And then I guess we could go through you want me to go through all the lieutenants, everybody? Or is this all right? Yeah? Okay. Lieutenants, Eugene Squires, Oscar Bowling, Graham Fines, Mike Adamczyk, Ruben Adekor. Second lieutenants, John Perry, Shane Finicaro, Mark Maddock, Stephen Rogoski, and Mike Cause. There we go. So, does the clerk have to swear them in? Okay. Madam Clerk, please swear in the officers of the fire department.
Just attention to everyone for here. When I say the word "I," then you'll say your name, and then you'll repeat after me. So everyone has to just raise their right hand. I know all of you have already done this a few times, but on behalf of the state of New York, the county of Suffolk, and the village of Southampton, I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of, and then say your respective title. According to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Come inside and sign the book.
Gentlemen, before you go, please about face so we can capture this moment. We're all very proud of you.
Hey, Chief, get over here.
Wait,
Paulus, we can't see you. Stand up, Paulus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dennis, thank you for coming. All right, so next we will go to the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance. Officers, Chief of the Department, Christopher Epley. First Assistant Chief, Matt Zukowski. And Second Assistant Chief, Colby Gill. Treasurer, Don Mahoney. And Secretary, Daniel Berry.
So everyone, you'll have to raise your right hand and repeat after me. When I say the word "I," after that you'll state your name and then repeat everything afterwards. On behalf of the state of New York, the county of Suffolk, and the village of Southampton, I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of, and state your duty, your title, according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
May I?
Come on, Colby. You get that haircut for tonight?
Thank you.
Okay. And now for the 2025 Southampton Village Ocean Rescue Executive Officers. Chief Alexandra King, First Assistant Chief Kyle Cranston, Second Assistant Chief Vincent McGann, Captain Maria Teresa Abadassa, Captain Luke O'Connor, Captain Dylan Henderson, Lieutenant T.J. Parker, Lieutenant James Mack, Lieutenant William Malone, Auxiliary Lieutenant Elise Bennett, Auxiliary Lieutenant Lauren Matson, Executive Advisor Miles Rucciolari, Executive Advisor Alexandra Talty, Secretary Wendy Neisberg, Treasurer Michael Neisberg. Okay, you guys look sharp in your red. No, I want to make sure the clerk swears you guys in. Yeah.
So everyone, raise your right hand. And when I say the word "I," you'll state your name and then you'll repeat everything thereafter. So on behalf of the state of New York and the county of Suffolk and the village of Southampton, I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New York. I will faithfully discharge the duties of, and state your title, according to the best of my ability. Congratulations. And
Here we go. Wait, we gotta get you in. Yeah. You get to be in front of the tall guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Alexandra. Alex, thank you. Happy New Year to you guys. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all very much. Now we'll go on to board presentation from the village traffic consultant, Ryan Winter, of VHB, Manashangan Brooklyn Incorporated. Ryan? I saw Ryan earlier. Ryan! You're up. What, you thought you were joining the ambulance corps or something?
So I have a laptop with some.
Oh, Sage, can you help him with the laptop so we can show the schematics on the screens, please? Is Julie here? Julie, yeah. Well, as long as Ryan's ready to go, we'll do that. Otherwise, I was going to put Julie ahead of Ryan.
If we can just plug in, I'm pretty much ready.
Sage, where can he plug in?
You can plug in via the Zoom. Join the Zoom meeting. You can share your screen. Sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Think you're good?
Just raise your hand. Okay.
All right, take it away.
Mayor, members of the board, and Southampton community, I'm Ryan Winter with VHB Engineering, traffic engineer assisting the village with various traffic issues. Today we're here to talk about Somerset Avenue at McGee Street. We've been working with the village and the DPW to come up with potential solutions to reduce the potential for future incidents along Somerset Avenue. There's been several incidents over the past year plus as it's been utilized more and more as a cut-through route. We implemented the restrictions on the turns onto Hill Street off of Somerset, along with a number of other streets on that corridor in the afternoon peak hour, which seemed to quell the issue a little bit, but there's challenges with that approach, and some of these same issues that were there prior to that being implemented persisted. So we're taking another step forward to look at more physical changes that could reduce or eliminate cut-through traffic for Somerset Avenue. So when we met, we came up with 3 preliminary options that I want to present to the trustees and also the community, and we're gathering input. This is by no means final design. This is just something that we are discussing as a means to change the traffic patterns at the intersection of Somerset and South McGee, so that in these 3 concepts you'll see, we are eliminating the southbound traffic on Somerset for the portion of Somerset between McGee Street and Pleasant Lane to the south. So with that background, I'm going to present 3 concepts. This first one is probably the most drastic in terms of change for the intersection. It converts it to a roundabout, as you can see, a single lane roundabout, which allows traffic to flow as it currently does from McGee to South McGee, but restricts only traffic entering the circle from Somerset and does not allow traffic to exit onto Somerset. This concept is, out of the 3 you'll see, is the most effective in terms of enforcement and compliance, because it is difficult to make that turn onto Somerset from the circle. But it also does impact some of the adjacent driveways and the wooded area, which is owned by the village, so there is some flexibility there to allow for a rearranging of the geometry of the roadway there. The second alternative, I'll go through each of these and then happy to answer any questions. This one is scaled out a little bit. Sorry if it's hard to see, I can zoom in if need be. But again, it's the same McGee Street and Somerset at the top right of the screen. We are restricting Somerset again in this concept to one way between Pleasant Lane and South McGee in the northbound direction. The green that you see on there would be where the roadway is narrowed physically with new curb to a width of approximately 20 feet, which complies with fire code, and would only be, again, a one-way northbound. South of the green, there is yellow hatching, and that would be, again, prohibiting southbound traffic on Somerset, but not with the physical barrier, just with pavement marking. I should also mention, at the intersection of South McGee and McGee, acknowledging that there is cut-through traffic in this area, consideration of they call it a raised intersection, which is essentially a speed table in the intersection. So as you're going through, you're ramping up about 4 inches, like you would on a speed table going down a regular street, and then you drop back down as you get through the intersection, which would further reduce speeds around that turn.
Where would that be located?
So it's a little difficult to see here, but if in this area here, I can zoom in. It's like this gray hatched area is the approximate location. So within this area, you'd have your 6-foot ramp up, and then you'd have your table.
Not 6 foot.
Essentially.
Oh, 6 foot.
6 foot ramp. It's not 6 foot high.
Right, yeah.
It's 4 inches high over a 6 foot long ramp. And then the final option, which is similar to this one that we were just looking at, really just extends that reduced width of Somerset all the way down to Pleasant. So we're not dealing with any maintaining of striping, and kind of keeping it a little bit cleaner aesthetically, and more keeping with the existing conditions in the neighborhood. You know, minimizing the lane lines. This particular option, as opposed to the previous one, is probably more enforceable in terms of restricting movement. The shorter you make the physical reduced width for the one-way, the more likely you are to have someone try and circumvent that. So this would be, next to the roundabout, probably the preferred option in terms of getting maximum compliance. All of these have impacts, obviously, to the residents on Somerset in these particular locations, but also throughout the rest of the development. They won't be able to access their homes off of South McGee. They would need to go down to Hill Street to get into the development. And similarly, any traffic that's coming to go to Hill Street from McGee Street now would have to go down South McGee to Bishop.
Okay, do any board members have any questions for Ryan at this time? When I was also going to call on the chief of police maybe to address some of this as well.
I just want to ask if as part of your consideration of these changes, have you studied at all or looked at the impact that these changes would have on the other streets heading north-south from Hill Street, Bishops and Corrigan, and looked at, analyzed what will happen on those streets and looked at any alternatives or suggestions that might be made to improve the safety and of those two streets?
Yep. Yeah, so this is definitely something we are considering as we're developing these alternatives. Obviously, these traffic issues are not just isolated to this location. Everybody's well aware of the traffic issues throughout the village. So, and we're constantly monitoring and looking at ways to make things better. And in addition to that, looking at ways to fund some of these improvements, because obviously any of these things that you're seeing here cost money. So we are considering impacts to the adjacent roadways on Somerset Avenue as well, to answer your question. Bishops and Corrigan Street particularly were on our radar before we were doing this, kind of looking at ways to reduce or minimize traffic issues on there. None of these improvements are going to make the traffic go away. It's still going to be there, so it's just a matter of what can we do to not impose traffic in one particular street or neighborhood and still satisfy and make, you know, these roadways as safe as we can and as, what's the word I'm looking for, as comfortable for everybody to use as possible.
Wasn't there a
given the
discussion
current situation.
that you had about doing some sort of a bifurcation over on Bishops or maybe one of the other streets?
Yeah, so on Bishops and at other locations in the western end of town, we're looking at the potential to either, at certain intersections, force vehicles to make it to turn either right or left, not allow them to make full movements, or physically closing off connections to certain streets to kind of make it a little less, not as easy to kind of make your way through the residential neighborhoods. It would be less convenient and, you know, presumably cause less vehicles to utilize those routes. So all things we're looking at. So just, it's an ongoing discussion. Obviously, we were talking about it this summer. It's going to continue to go on into next year.
Yeah.
So this is just, this particular location, again, just to clarify, we're focusing on this at the moment because there's been a number of incidents on this particular street, and the geometry of Somerset is different than Bishops or Corrigan. There's some fairly substantial curvatures on Somerset, obviously, that don't help when vehicles are trying to cut through. So we've looked at traffic calming measures that we could utilize there also, but the preferred approach at this time and seems to be to eliminate the two-way traffic in this portion of Somerset. And based on what we've seen in terms of the existing traffic out there, it would not have a substantial impact on Bishops or Corrigan beyond what's already occurring.
Can I call the chief up? Chief? Can you address some of the incidents we've had and anything else that you'd like to discuss regarding Somerset or any of the neighboring streets?
You know, Somerset, I think we've tried different things over there. We put up the stop signs at McGee and Somerset. We did the right turn restrictions that, you know, we enforce when we can, but we can't be there every day on 3 different streets. I just don't have the manpower. But we do it when we can. The last 2 years has been 8 accidents over on Somerset, 4 of which have been overturned vehicles. And that's just, those are accidents that we get called to. I don't know about the neighborhood, the neighborhood when they're walking their dog or when they're going for a walk and they have near misses. But this is an issue because of the 90-degree curves. And all the accidents that happened, the overturned vehicles, were all on those curves. So I do think that, the board and the village has done their due diligence with trying to mitigate as best as they can. But I think that this is the next best option because I don't think closing the road is a good idea. That's just my opinion. I do think that this is the best option. And I know it's not going to be popular with the people outside, but it really is about this community and what they've had to deal with the last couple of years. And just to give you an idea, from 2016 to 2021, the department wrote 31 traffic tickets over there. From 2021 to 2024, we've written 617 tickets because of the volume of cars going through, the complaints that we've received, the right turn restrictions, the stop signs. It is a hub to go through there at rush hour. So I do think that this is necessary. And, it was just a suggestion on my part. Ryan's the guy to say yes if this is going to work or not, and then it's up to the village board to get it done.
So obviously the question is, if we were to do something like this, what can you do about enforcement on Bishops, Corrigan, and other streets in the village? If
we do this, obviously there's more of an issue. I think it's becoming more of an issue year round. It's not really going away. So if we do this, obviously we're not going to have the amount of cars coming out of Somerset like we used to because everyone's going to the western point. We have traffic coming down Bishops as it is. We can refocus our efforts to Bishops, and then we can concentrate on Corrigan if we need to. We have to monitor that. The other issue is that we're going to run into is the south side of Hill Street later on in the summer. We're going to have to redeploy. I have 2 people in the seasonal academy right now. I have flyers out for part-time employment for the summer to beef up the department with traffic control officers, and if we have to put them in the middle of the road to get people out, we'll do it. I'm very hesitant on putting 17, 18-year-olds in the middle of the road, but if we have to do it, we'll do it.
They can't write tickets, can they?
They can't write tickets, no. They can't write moving violations. But, that's the best we can do right now. And I think the goal is going to be to just hit it really, really hard, right from the get-go, and just so people are uncomfortable coming down our side roads into the village. And there was a gentleman at a meeting, one of the community meetings we had a while ago here, that said you got to focus on them coming from the east. They're coming in from the east, and then they're weaving all throughout the village. Mm-hmm. So I think, that's what we've been working on at the police department on how to attack this when the season really takes off, probably in the beginning of April and of March.
Chief, one of the things that we talked to the town about, McCardle specifically, was trying an experiment on Route 39 to make that move more efficiently, which would alleviate pressure on the residential streets. Have you talked to him any more about that? I know he's got his issues now.
Yeah.
I just don't know how that is going to affect what we talked about
I
trying?
don't think it's gonna affect,
Okay.
I think that's gonna go through. I know that Chief Kiernan wants to try it out as
Oh, good.
well.
Okay.
He's doing a pilot program later this spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometime in April, we're gonna do a
Yeah.
two-week pilot program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he hopes to put the lights on blinking when all the landscapers are out, the workforce is coming out before the summer, to get a real feel on how this is all gonna work, and if it works well, he's hopeful that he can try and get it extended. It is gonna have impacts in the village. I'm gonna deal with that with him, with another meeting probably with us, and hopefully we can work that out so it minimizes the impact on our residential streets.
Okay, any other board members want to ask any questions? All right, thank you, Chief.
Okay.
I think that's it for the presentation
Yes,
at this point. Thank you, Ryan. We have a couple more presentations, and then we'll go to the public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to call up Julie, the treasurer, for a very quick, I hope, presentation on the fund balance and conforming with new accounting rules.
Yes, very quick. So I was looking over our current fund balance policy, and I realized that it was not in line with GASB 54. So GASB 54 abandons the reserve and unreserved classification and brings in 5 new classifications for fund balance, and it's based on a hierarchy of most restricted to least restricted. So you have non-spendable as the most restricted, which is your prepaid. Then you have restricted, which is constrained fund balance by creditors, grantors, contributors, laws, and regulations. So this is if a resident or an individual gave to the village with the intent for it to be used for a specific purpose. This is restricted. Also, the tax stabilization reserve and the employee benefit reserve is restricted. And the next one is committed fund balance. This can be reversed via a board resolution. And then the next one is assigned fund balance, which is where our capital reserves are located, and our fire capital reserves are located within there. And then the rest is unassigned fund balance, which is the residual left over from that's not in those other fund balance reserves. So basically, we kept the fund balance at 10% of the annual appropriations for the fiscal year, the same as the current as this one. The only thing that I did add into this update is that in the event that it drops, fund balance drops below the 10% minimum threshold, the treasurer is to give a report to the board on how we plan to recuperate that target level. So that's it for the fund balance.
Thank you. And so we're going to have a resolution, though, to adopt these
Yes.
changes, and then when will they be
They'll
implemented?
be ready for, they're already implemented. It's just the same. It's kind of more cosmetic. The policy, it's more informative, so the public can go on and look at our fund balance policy and have a better understanding too, looking at our financial.
But there are more
financial
categories than
statements.
we've had previously.
Well, our financial statements have been reflecting the GASB 54. Our just policy wasn't updated.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Julie, very
Yeah,
much.
of course.
Do you have a question? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say what you just said.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
Okay.
No operational change, it's just really nomenclature and
Yep.
classification.
Excellent. All right. And the next presentation will be on 71 Hill Street, and I'm not sure if John or Scott are making the presentation.
No, thank you. It's John Bennett for the applicant, and Scott Rose is with me here this evening. We, in the parlance of the law, rested at the last hearing. We don't really have anything to say. I know that the mayor wanted to hold it open just in case somebody hadn't had an opportunity, but to provide anything that they wanted to say, but we're fine. We don't really have anything to add.
Okay.
That works.
Well, at this
And
point,
it was respectfully asked that the meeting be closed, yeah.
all right. So let you speak.
We can ask for a motion to close the public hearing, and then we're not going to make any decision tonight, but we can.
Yeah, that I understand.
No, we're not making sense. If there was some drastic change, though, would we have the ability
Well, we would have
to reopen it?
A drastic change in the plans or something.
It's significant
Okay,
change.
okay.
We don't plan any changes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that people might have the opportunity if there's something that is very different from what we last saw.
Always
Yeah,
within your
There has been
discretion.
plenty of
Yeah.
opportunity to speak on this project.
Well, I know, it doesn't actually, well, we're not to
Should
public
ask if
hearing,
anyone's
but
here.
I know. Was there anyone that was here tonight, though, to speak on 71 Hill Street? Okay. Well, at this point, then, I think we can close this hearing, with the knowledge that if there were significant change, we might have to reopen.
Understood.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much for being here. Scott, next time I'm going to make you sign up for the fire department. He didn't hear that. Okay. So now we will go to the correspondence to the board.
We had received several letters, generally both in support of and in opposition to designating Somerset as a one-way street. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the names of those who are in support of it, and then I'll read the names of those who are in opposition to it. I'm sure you can all understand why I can't read each letter individually. We have Mr. Ken Hauer in favor, Elena Belenkov, Joe Stivoletti. We have Lou Andeblioni, correspondence of Sharon and Shravan Tuz, Diane Pacito, Wayne Miller, Patricia McAndrews-Rung, Lisa Miller, David Barnard, Catherine Andreasen. Forgive me, starting with Mr. Bernard, this is the list of no's. Mr. Bernard, Catherine Andreasen, Amanda Grove Holman and Robert Holman, Julia LaVolpe, Rosemary Sharp, who is representing the Bishop's Pond President HOA, Christine and Joseph Morena, Robert Goodman, Rory Bursa, Martin Denman, and Merrill Lieberman. And that concludes.
Okay. Thank you. And there was one other letter, I believe, from Jay Deasing that was left over from the previous meeting.
Yes, my oversight, that was in favor of the restrictions with reference to gas blowers.
Okay. So now we will open it for public comment. Again, limited to 3 minutes. Anyone who wants to talk on any topic here, please come forward to the mic, introduce yourself, state your name and address, and
Go in order.
you've got a list that's up there.
Yes,
Thank you.
first we'll.
And Sage, you'll tell me if anyone's on Zoom. Thank you. Okay, let's do these first. Yeah.
Yes, first Amanda Holman. Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening. Put my glasses on first. Good evening. My name is Amanda Grove Holmain, and I live on 5 Bishop's Court. First, I'd like to say that our family is praying for the recovery of our neighbor who was hit by a van on Somerset. We know the victim and her husband. They live 1 street away from us on North Captain's Neck. For the record, she is not a resident of Somerset, as is stated in many of the letters you've received. Next, I was told that the victim was walking her dog around 5 p.m. at dusk in early December when she was hit by a van within the first 100 feet of entering Somerset at South McGee. This tragic accident did not happen on a 90-degree turn or curve. What would have saved her? More street lights, speed bumps, stop signs, cautionary signage, a flashing radar speed alert, a patrol car at the top of the street? Or what about a patrol car at the bottom of the street, enforcing the existing no right turn rules? No one can be sure, but these tools are specifically designed to prevent traffic accidents from happening and were not adopted 2 years ago. And as for the no right turn patrols, we all know that enforcement of traffic rules is essential for them to be effective. If Somerset becomes a one-way street now, and I hear that this is already a fait accompli, then some danger will increase on the next street over, Bishop's Lane, and the tiny streets that surround it, including, ironically, where the victim lives. She will now live on the new ground zero of traffic heading west. Somerset and Pheasant have approximately 32 homes. Everyone there matters. We share the same goal of safety for all who live on our streets, but the hundreds of homeowners who live outside of Somerset and the thousands of taxpayers and drivers who need public roads to get to their homes, well, they matter too. Do we close every road where an accident happens? Or do we now employ proven traffic safety methods to reduce the risk of them happening? Sadly, it appears too late. Even at this first public hearing, I fear nothing we say tonight will change a decision that seems to have been already made. This, even though for most of us, including me, I only learned of this accident last week. We need time as a community to make the right next decision. Are we forever to be playing catch up when it comes to Somerset? We all deserve better. I heard that Somerset has already negotiated a bespoke plan. It will become a hybrid of one-way and two-way patterns. Most troubling is the implication that they will no longer be subject to the no right turn regulations the rest of us are. I ask you, where does this preferential treatment end? Please, Mayor Manger and trustees, pause and reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Next, we have Merle Lieberman.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. My name is Merrill Lieberman, and I live in Bishop's Pond off McGee. I share in everyone's sincere wishes that the Captain Neck woman who was hit by the car on Somerset early last month makes a speedy and complete recovery. What we can all agree on is that we all want all our village streets to be safe for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. We share the concerns of our Somerset neighbors in this regard, and we want to work collaboratively in being a part of the solution. What we can't agree on is the method by which our elected officials go about keeping us safe and making sure traffic laws are enforced. The Somerset residents tell us that their streets have unique safety issues because cars traversing Somerset speed to get to Hill Street and because of the curves in the road. What we know so far about this very unfortunate accident is that the vehicle was not speeding and that the accident did not occur on a curve, but on the straightaway. It has been reported that the driver did not see the pedestrian because it was dark, she was wearing dark clothing, and in the absence of sidewalks, she was walking in the street. Making Somerset a one-way going from Pleasant to McGee and removing the no right turn restriction would do nothing to prevent this accident from happening again. I'm not a traffic engineer, but what would prevent accidents of this kind and others are maybe speed bumps, reflective mirrors, solar lighting, better lighting, reflective curb lines, roundabouts, cameras, pedestrian crosswalks with signage that we have all over Main Street and Hampton Road, and enforcing current traffic restrictions such as speed limits, stop signs, and no turns at specified times. I stop at that stop sign and I make sure that I am there 15 to 20 seconds before I make that turn because I live there and my neighbors walk there. The point is that there are many possible solutions that will make Somerset safer for all of us who transverse it at the same time, but will not be detrimental to pedestrians and vehicles who use nearby feeder streets, into which disproportionate traffic will no doubt be fed, and simply moving these unsafe conditions from one poorly lit road to the next. The solution to any safety concerns calls for a thoughtful, thorough, and unbiased approach with full community involvement, not on a street-by-street basis. It is premature to rush to judgment to implement this proposed solution before all possible and unbiased alternatives are explored and consequences to the neighboring community as a whole are properly considered and measured. This is especially so as my request under the New York Freedom of Information law for the police report was declined on the ground that the police investigation has reportedly not been completed. This safety issue impacts all of us who walk on Somerset and other poorly lit roads with no sidewalks. We join with our Somerset neighbors in wanting a solution, but the proposed hybrid one-way street is not it. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrill.
Next, we have Tony Maloney.
She's not here this evening.
Oh, she's not.
I don't know if she's on Zoom.
Actually, all right, I'm going to ask Sage. Sage, who do we have on Zoom? We want to call them in at this point? We can take someone from there as well first. Yeah. Go ahead, Sage. Why don't we see who that is, please? Hello, sir. You're on. Please state your name and address.
How you doing? Hi.
The record.
So my name is Dr. Jeffrey Muller, and I currently reside in the Bishop's Pond condo complex. I am very sorry to the person who got hit on Somerset. I actually know her and her husband very well. They're friends of ours, and it was a tragedy. And I've been in contact with them in regards to her recovery, and she seems to be improving. Unfortunately, I am also opposed to that one-way street happening, the current proposal. I'm an anesthesiologist at Southampton Hospital. I've been there for 27 and a half years, and I've been in Bishop's Pond for the last about 9 years. And I take call responsibility, and sometimes I'm needed at the hospital very quickly, very urgently to save lives. Closing down that street to a one-way street, which is going to further divert traffic down to South McGee Street, and I'm assuming that's going to stay a two-way street, is going to make it even further difficult for me to get out and get to the hospital when I'm home and help save lives. And the other problem I'm going to have at some point in the future, when they do move the new hospital over there to the Southampton campus where the college is, that limited access of the right turn that's currently in existence is going to be a problem for me for those hours that it's no right turn.
Okay. Was there anything else, sir? We understand your concerns about the.
No, I mean,
I understand.
And that's it, you know. And like I said, unfortunately, this did happen to this woman, but she's not the only one to have been hit in this town. I mean, just 2 days ago, somebody was hit in front of CVS that had to be airlifted to, Stony Brook as well, the main campus. I know of other people that were hit in Bridgehampton a couple of years ago, similar situations. I don't think closing down single lanes or subdivisions is going to fix the problem. The solution is what some of the other speakers have mentioned: better traffic control, enforcement, and I honestly think speed bumps would be the way to go, and more stop signs.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Toby Alfred.
Hi, I'm Toby Alfred, also live in Bishop's Pond, 1504 Devon Court. I too am a concerned voting citizen of Southampton, who deserve my rights as well. My rights are no different than Somerset residents. We should all be considered together. Most importantly, my thoughts and prayers are for a speedy and complete recovery of the pedestrian who was involved. I mean, it's a terrible tragedy when somebody gets hurt. I am supportive of many of the words of the couple of people who spoke before me. It's important to have full consideration of all of the neighborhood's needs and safety, not merely those of the Somerset community. No action should be taken to change traffic patterns without a thoughtful, thorough, and unbiased approach that considers all of the communities and all of our access. Jeff's concern is particular to access, in times of need. But we have been, when the street was closed down the last time, you should have seen what the traffic looked like. It was measured, and it was, far worse on Bishop's Road. I don't want it to be a premature rush to judgment to implement a solution before alternatives are explored and consequences are discussed with all of the community. As we discussed 2 years ago, there are many other solutions that should be considered before changing traffic patterns. Speed bumps, traffic cameras, speed cameras are all options used elsewhere, including streets that are adjacent to Somerset, though not in Southampton Village. I don't know why we're different. Before a solution is implemented that will endanger other residents by making pedestrians on other streets more vulnerable and increase traffic on smaller streets, we ask you to enforce the rules currently in place of no right turn on several streets leading to Hill Street, not merely Bishops and Corrigan, but also so people don't go down Captain's Neck to make that right turn. As a member of the community, I see it all the time with people. If I stood there and took a camera and took a picture of all the times that this is not enforced, you would be horrified. And how many people are making these turns illegally. That's going to be pushed onto more streets that are going to endanger other lives. Our lives matter too. We ask you to conduct a thorough process that considers all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Please forgive me in advance because I'm having a lot of difficulty reading this writing. I probably am going to get this name very wrong, and I'm sorry for that. Spiro Zacharias.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. Save you the trouble. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again. This morning, I listened to the eulogies for President Carter. The overwhelming theme of the messages around his life is of a person who did the right thing, regardless of the political consequences. For example, in 1979, he selected Paul Volcker as Federal Reserve Chairman, knowing Volcker would be amongst the most persistent rate hawk candidates for the post, and knowing that he'd raise rates during an election year because it was the right path to take to reduce inflation for the country. Despite serving for only one term as president, today President Carter is one of the most revered former presidents for his convictions, his values, and his actions both during his presidency and in his post-presidency. On Tuesday, Ray Tierney, Suffolk County DA, in public comments addressing what he referred to as quote-unquote deadly driving in Suffolk County, said, and I quote, "There's carnage on our streets." As the statistics cited by the chief point out, Somerset Avenue is the best example of that in Southampton Village. And while some have mused about what the majority of residents will feel about the issue and the fairness of any impending decision that might be made, a village resident, not of Somerset or Pleasant, as we know, nearly dies on Somerset. Elected officials are much more than simple barometers of the preferences of the majority of residents. Officials are elected to protect and serve. Our elected officials are our guardians. That means making difficult, if unpopular, decisions when in the interest of saving lives. Certain members of this board have diminished the value of human life and left residents unprotected. And that's not just the Somerset and Pleasant residents, as evidenced in December's accidents. It's all the residents. We're all affected by this. And by framing Somerset as a traffic issue, you diminish the value of human life. The issue on Somerset is line of sight. There are 3 massive curves on it. Since the street was reopened to both southbound traffic and McGee, there have been 3 different cars that have crashed onto 3 different front lawns. What if your child or grandchild was playing on one of those front lawns? Would you be satisfied that you've taken sufficient action to address the risk? Is there any action you wouldn't take to prevent that from happening? The most recent example of last month's tragic incident where a southbound cut-through driver put Roy Stevenson's next-door neighbor on a medevac helicopter and in the ICU was completely foreseeable. We stood here month after month and told you this would happen. We showed you photos of overturned southbound vehicles on Somerset. The remedies provided to this point have proved wholly inadequate. You are accountable to fully and not incrementally address this problem. You have the capacity, the evidence, and the information needed. Like President Carter, you should do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Spiros.
Next, we have Rob Coburn.
Rob Coburn, 345 Hill Street. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. It's worth remembering that the root cause of all of the traffic problems is a regional issue. that the village can't meaningfully solve on its own. And some of the actions that can be considered would be similar to rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's just going to shunt a problem from one place to another. It's been mentioned that the westbound traffic through the village in the afternoon seems to be worse. It is worse. There's reason for it. I don't know if it's all the reason, but a major reason for it has to do with David White's Lane. David White's Lane has approximately 2,500 cars that come eastbound on the highway in the morning and turn right to go to the schools, the hospital, Mariner Drive, and Town Hall. Very few of those cars go back down David White's Lane because there's no dedicated left turn lane there and the traffic's bad. So they come through the village. Many of them will go onto North Main Street, North Sea Road, to get to the main intersection. But a lot of them filter through the village. That's the reason for the increased traffic in the afternoons that causes the gridlock around Western Hill Street. As several letters have pointed out, blocking, and some comments here tonight, blocking traffic in one place only displaces it to another. The safety issues that displaced traffic caused don't disappear. They'll simply migrate to wherever the traffic was moved. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul to implement what's been recommended by the engineer, in my opinion. I think it's madness to consider an expensive and permanent change to traffic without trying simpler, reversible methods. Several writers and some people here tonight mentioned speed bumps. Let's put them in. They're in Halsey Street, they're in Lee Avenue. They made a big difference to speeds on those roads. I think the chief would probably agree with that. I don't know. Don't want to put words in your mouth, but I live in the area, I walk in the area with my dogs. Traffic is slower on Halsey since the speed bump went in on Halsey. So whatever you decide, I just ask that any action you undertake be done on a trial basis. If the board is inclined to go with one of the three methods that was presented earlier, I'd ask you not to do it permanently first. It's expensive. Put some temporary blocks in there and see what one-way southbound traffic looks like over, say, a 3 to 6 month period. See if that solves the issue. So those are my comments. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Rob.
Next, we have David Rump.
David Wrong, Pleasant Lane. This evening, I'm introducing Project Fairness, the village's system of calculating the assessed value of properties produces absurd and unfair results. Results that have the assessed value of 700 Meadow Lane, a property that sold for $112 million at 0.003 of its market value. The system also produces assessed values for $1 million properties at 0.009. Thus, the system forces the lower valued properties to pay a disproportionate share of the village tax burden. This is just wrong. We as individuals and as a community should be ashamed that we allow the village to treat its residents in this manner. What can we do? We can file grievances on our own properties and demand that our assessed values be computed at 0.003 of their fair market value. If 0.003 is a fair percentage for a $112 million property, it should be fair for all of us. The grievance filing date is February 18th. The form for filing the grievance is in the village website and accessible under the tax receiver portal. Trustee Simeone is hosting his usual open house this next Tuesday at the Kiwanis Lodge on Main Street at 6 p.m. Come meet Mr. Simeone. He actually cares about us and he believes in treating village residents with fairness. I will be there to help anyone with the preparation of their grievances. The process to get substantial number of grievances filed will be a year-long effort, needing some input by filing residents and a substantial commitment from volunteers like myself who will help residents with the process. But we need to get a good sample of grievances filed this year. Is it possible that some of the trustees will reject these grievances? If they do, each resident will know which trustees care nothing about fairness, care nothing about residents in lower valued properties, and should not receive your vote next June. We all need to understand how real estate taxes work. Each resident's assessed value does not change the amount of taxes that the village extracts from the taxpayers. The village always gets its full pound of flesh. Or I was going to say, and with this village, it's 2 pounds of flesh. The assessed value just determines how each resident pays. Thus, when a $112 million property is underassessed, we all have to pay more. Filing grievances and demanding fairness will correct these abuses in the present system. In time, we could have a system that we are proud of instead of a system that we are ashamed of. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. A correction, my open meeting is on Monday, not Tuesday. And in the, and for fairness, I'd be very interested to see what you have to present. Thank you.
Next, we have Wayne Miller.
Good evening, Wayne Miller, 24 Somerset Avenue. Most residents who live on Somerset and Pleasant knew the day would come when one of our residents would be seriously injured or killed by a cut-through driver. These two streets with 3 90-degree curves were originally designed only for residents of the 30 homes, not the significant number of cars that still come through every day making right turns onto Hill Street. Even between 3 and 7, even with posted no right turn signs, the current layout and volume of traffic is a danger to all. Nelson Pope, traffic engineering experts engaged by the trustees over 2 years ago, stated that Somerset, unique to most other village streets, was unsafe in its design to handle any volume of traffic. And I think I heard Ryan echo that tonight. The traffic is worse, now making the street even more dangerous. And by the way, we lowered the speed limit, we added new signage in the curves, we painted double lines in the streets. Thank you guys all very much. None have or will make the street safer. Some of you are asking for speed bumps. They are ineffective, and municipalities are moving away from them. They are very dangerous to use on curved streets. They usually only use them on straight streets. But I know, I've heard complaints from people on Halsey and Lee that they're not working as well as they want them to work. I think we got a letter last year from one of the residents that her backyard was right up against that speed hump, and it was ruining her quality of life. The line of Somerset on Somerset is fully obstructed. No other street in the village has 2 90-degree curves. All who use the street are completely vulnerable. Property damage continues, and now bodily damage has occurred. Over the last few years, we've had an overturned truck on someone's front lawn, separate incidents, a tree and mailbox taken out, and have had several cars on front lawns. Actually, the resident is with us tonight. And now a horrific accident which occurred where a pedestrian does not even live on Somerset was almost killed. I support the third proposal by Ryan Winter in working with Police Chief Hertel, which is to make Somerset, and I'm assuming that's the less costly one. I mean, the first one is a lot of work, which is to make Somerset one-way north of Pleasant and Somerset to McGee. This proposal will make the street safer for all of us. This proposal would also eliminate the need for no right turn enforcement on Somerset. From what I heard tonight, Police Chief Hertel was saying that I think it's going to be easier to enforce no right turns for just Bishop and Corrigan, and a much more doable task than enforcing the 3 streets as is. And ultimately, this Bishop and Corrigan enforcement will keep more of the traffic on 39. That's what we want. It really is time for the mayor and the trustees to propose Ryan's third recommendation by posting a walk-on resolution tonight for public comment on at the February 13th trustee meeting to amend existing law to allow for the one-way street north of Pleasant on Somerset to McGee. This hasn't been going on for months. I've lived on Somerset now for 12 years. This has been going on a long, long time. Thank you very much for your attention to this urgent matter. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wayne.
That concludes the list.
All right, Sage, is there anyone else on Zoom? hold on one second. No? All right. Anyone else in the room that would like to speak that did not sign up? Please come forward, Rob. Okay, well, let's have Rob go first here since he's at the podium, and we'll go to the person on Zoom next.
I did sign up earlier.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just didn't get read out. Thank you. Robert Holmain, Bishop's Court. We've lived there for over 20 years. First, we want to acknowledge the terrible accident that occurred in Somerset. We hold the victim and her family in our prayers. We are committed to working towards solutions that prevent such incidents in the future. Amanda and I believe safety measures are the key to accident prevention, not changing traffic patterns. The proposed action, making Somerset into a one-way street, thereby limiting the public's... Hello?
We can hear you.
Amanda and I believe safety measures are the key to accident prevention, not changing traffic patterns. The proposed action, making Somerset into a one-way street, thereby limiting the public's ability to use this road to access Hill Street, is not the best solution. It would unfairly burden neighboring streets by shifting all of Somerset's traffic. Ironically, if the board votes to close Somerset to commuter through traffic, freeing it from the crushing burden of living with it daily, the victim of the accident, who is our neighbor, will be living in the new ground zero of traffic near Bishop's Lane, along with the rest of us. Prior to the accident, Somerset, Bishop's Lane, Corrigan were sharing the traffic burden, armed theoretically with no right turn rules. Despite a perplexing lack of promised enforcement and those no right turn rules, traffic had begun to decrease somewhat during the last year, we believe due to effective signage. Exempting Somerset from this carefully studied and designed plan, in which we all participated after a year of meetings, will significantly increase the risk of accidents, particularly on Bishop's Lane, the last and most westerly road feeding into Hill Street. This crowding will also hinder emergency response. The Village Code and New York State traffic laws support implementing targeted safety measures rather than broad changes that disrupt traffic flow. Under the Village Code, the board has the authority to implement traffic control measures, including stop signs, speed bumps, cautionary signage, and improved lighting. These are proven solutions to reduce speeding and enhance pedestrian safety. 2 years ago, we urged the board and Somerset residents to employ these methods. None were adopted. These simple safety measures directly address the root causes of accidents without penalizing the surrounding community. We urge the board to be more transparent. Please consider the impact of any proposed action you might take, not only on Somerset, but on Bishop's Lane, Bishop's Court, North Captain's Neck, and South McGee. Include these streets in any studies and reports. Let's work together to implement an equitable and effective solution that improves safety without unfairly impacting adjacent streets. And I would just like to say, this evening I was going west on Hill Street, took a right on Bishop's Lane, and as I was making that turn, there was a pickup truck about to take a right on Hill, obviously in contravention of the rule. There were 2 police cruisers across the street. And so I stopped for a minute and put my flashers on to see if they would notice and possibly do something, but nothing was done. The car took a right and went on his way. And I think enforcement of that signage would make a big difference. If, a number of people get tickets and the word gets out that you're going to get fined if you make a right turn where you're not supposed to, that will, I think, solve much of the problem. But I think closing Somerset is not going to necessarily help. It's just going to move the problem one street over. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Sage, you still have someone on Zoom that raising their hand? Okay, please let them in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Could you state your name and address, please, sir? think maybe your name is Eric Rydell. That was helpful. Well, actually, we can't hear you now, sir. It's, yeah, I think you're on mute.
Okay, hopefully that.
Now we can hear you. Yes, yes.
And I'm not in San Francisco, but I don't know how to change that. Eric Rydell, 59 North Captain's Neck Lane. I think all village residents and the trustees are in agreement that traffic safety is of the utmost importance to everyone. This was clear 2 years ago when we discussed the issue, and it's certainly clear now. To that end, one thing that concerns me as a parent, like many of the other members of the community, is that whatever decision is made, it's not permanent to begin with, and it's backed up by data, backed up by a wholesome study that includes not only the Somerset, but the surrounding roads. Many of the residents today have talked about concerns about impact on those other roads. And I haven't heard from the traffic consultant that study about how those roads would be effective has been conducted yet. Before we move to any public comment, I would ask that the village conduct a study of other potential options, such as what's been covered a few times today is improved funding for the police department so that they can enforce the no right turn prohibition on 3 roads, not just 2 roads. The impact of added stop signs, those blind right turns, with those blind 90-degree turns that the Somerset residents have talked about, none of them have stop signs. It would be helpful if the village could propose for, or could provide for us, potentially implementing stop signs, studying how they affect the traffic, studying whether those stop signs do or do not slow down the traffic. I've heard several people talk about the fact that stop signs or speed bumps would not change things, but we haven't seen any data to that effect, and I'm not aware of any studies about using such, I guess they were called speed reducing measures. Improving lighting is another thing that I would ask be studied. I think that's particularly important here where the most recent incident that's been referred to was a pedestrian that was hit. To close, before there's any public comment or next steps, I ask that a wholesome study is conducted and so that proposals can be made that include traffic safety improvement options other than making Somerset a one-way so that they can be compared and the best option chosen. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, very much. Sage, was there anyone else? Anyone else in the room that would like to speak during public comment period? Okay, well, with that being said, we'll go on to suggested resolutions. Len, I'm going to let you take the first one, please.
Resolve the claims for the warrant dated January 9th, 2025, totaling $1,007,255.19, warrant number A17, General Fund, and $355,338.87, warrant number H8, Capital Fund, are ordered and approved. I make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
2, resolve the reading of the minutes for the December 2024 Board of Trustee meeting is dispensed, accepted as filed by the village clerk, and the actions taken at those meetings are hereby ratified and approved. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Be it hereby resolved, the village board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held as a hybrid in-person Zoom meeting on February 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the village meeting room at the Southampton Village Hall located at 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York, 11968, to hear any and all persons either for or against a proposed local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 99 Taxation to provide a tax exemption for historic properties as authorized by Section 444-A of the New York Real Property Tax Law. I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Eileen, you want to just mention that at all in advance of the public hearing?
Sure. It's, there's enabling legislation at the state level that allows us to issue tax exemptions for improvements made to either landmarked properties or properties that are in the historic district that are contributing structures or resources. So that's all this does. It just
And we follow the
local law.
state guidelines as to what is
Correct.
permissible under that.
The proposed language is nearly word for word from the state enabling legislation.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, go ahead, Eileen.
All right, number 4, be it hereby resolved that the village board hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held as a hybrid in-person Zoom meeting on February 13th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the village meeting room at the Southampton Village Hall located at 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York 11968, to hear any and all persons either for or against a proposed local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 107 Trees to regulate the removal of and damage to trees in a required setback. That's your motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure,
was
this is a
something
very
that-
limited expansion of the current tree law. It would essentially require, simply require property owners who want to remove trees that are in required setbacks, so either a front yard setback or a side yard setback, to ask for a permit from the village. When we do this, I think the Board of Trustees will delegate the permit obligation to the Village Tree Commission, which there's a member on that that's the village arborist or an expert in trees.
And I'd like to add that this was brought to the village board by the Planning Commission as well as the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. I see Sheila Pfeiffer's in the audience.
Yeah, I'm here to make sure it gets considered.
Yes, no. So this is, now you have a unanimous decision that we will have a public hearing at the February meeting. So, but this was...
It doesn't prevent anybody from removing trees, it just requires you to get a permit and explain why you need to remove it and justify it if it's in a required setback.
And if they're of a significant size.
Correct.
It's not talking about brush or twigs or bushes.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, just want to make that clear to everybody. Okay, Leonard.
Number 5, resolve the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the attached updated fund balance policy to align with GASB 54 reporting, which provides clearer fund balance classifications that can be more consistently applied and establishes fund balance classifications that comprise a hierarchy based primarily on the extent to which a government is bound to observe constraints imposed upon the use of the resources reported in government funds. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the following 2025-27 4x4 beach driving permit fees as follows. Resident permit, 1 year, $25. Resident permit, 3 years, $60. Senior permit, 1 year, $10. Senior permit, 3 years, $30. Replacement permit, $10. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, just to let everyone know, this is being done with the approval of the town trustees who actually govern, the beachfront and driving on the beaches. As everyone knows, the town has their own beach driving permit that must be issued first, and then the village. For driving on the beaches in the village offers a second permit to all town residents. And so that is what this is doing, but I just want to make sure that this was in accordance with the town trustees who I consulted with on this. Thank you very much.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves Mayor Manger, Eileen Powers, Village Attorney, and Kathy Sweeney, Village Clerk, to attend the annual NICOM Winter Legislative Meeting from February 2nd through the 4th, 2025 in Albany, New York. Registration, training, hotel accommodations, meals, and travel expenses are estimated at $1,450 per person. Do I have a motion?
You make the motion, then.
I make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the sale of tax liens on all unpaid property taxes for the fiscal year 2024-2025, will be held at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, in the Boardroom, Village Hall, 23 Main Street, Southampton, New York. Notice to this effect will be published in the official paper, the Southampton Press. The village intends to purchase all eligible outstanding tax liens at said sale. So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So now we'll go to comments from board members, and we will start with Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to everyone and Happy New Year's. This is a time of welcome. And with welcoming, I'd like to welcome Southampton Town's ambulance that will be joining us as far as our dispatchers will be dispatching for them. So I'd like to say welcome. We're happy to have them. And we're quite supportive, so we're so grateful to have them. And the second welcome is we're all excited about the Playhouse. The Playhouse, our cinema in Southampton Village. We're so happy that they are interested in being a great pillar of the community, and they're going to be having their soft opening in February. I'd like to welcome Eric Kahn, who will be the creative director, who's also very interested in working with myself as liaison to the youth with programming. So we'd like to say welcome to them both, and once again, wishing everyone a pleasant and prosperous new year.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. We'll go to Trustee Simeoni.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I want to thank all residents for being here tonight. I had the opportunity to meet with some of you at the village police station last month, and I appreciated hearing your concerns firsthand. The recent near-tragic accident on Somerset was a wake-up call for all of us. While we are all grateful that the individual involved is recovering, it is clear that the traffic safety crisis throughout the village cannot be ignored any longer. Residents have shared their stories, and Nelson Pope and Voorhees has highlighted that Somerset is uniquely unsafe and is designed to handle any volume of traffic. I want to acknowledge those who live outside of Somerset as well, on streets like Bishop's, Corrigan, and others. Your concerns matter too. Safety is not a zero-sum game. When we solve problems in one area, we must ensure that we don't create new ones elsewhere. We need stronger enforcement and better planning to ensure the safety of everyone in Southampton Village. As one trustee who has been on this board for less than a year, I recognize my role in addressing these issues to build consensus and bring actionable proposals to this board and deliver the solutions. I thank you all.
Thank you, Ed. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been my privilege to work with as the liaison to the fire department and the ambulance department. And over the last year, it's been my extreme privilege to work with Chief Escobar and Chief McGinnis, who were the chiefs of their respective departments. I can't thank them enough for their professionalism. They made my life easy because they made sure that village resources were being properly employed to provide the outstanding service our community needs when emergency calls. So I want to thank them again personally for all the work that they did and appreciate what they've done, and at the same time welcome the new chiefs, Paulus Walker and Chris Epley of the Fire and Ambulance Department, and tell them I look forward to working with them and offer them whatever assistance I can provide in their work. As everyone has discussed tonight, the situation in Somerset, Bishop's, and Corrigan is a telling one. And safety is obviously an incredibly primary important issue. And this is a very, very, very difficult problem, and it must be considered as a whole. To try and affect one small area, we all know, it's been said several times tonight, it just affects everything in a different area. To me, the key driver of the problems we're having is the cut-through traffic. If there weren't so much cut-through traffic, people would be going slower, there wouldn't be so many people driving down the roads, it would be much better. And clearly the no right turn solution, while seemingly promising, has not done what we had hoped it would do in terms of reducing the amount of cut-through traffic. Part of that is there's just more and more cars. Part of it is enforcement. I understand in talking with the chief how difficult it is to enforce that. Every time you pull somebody over on Hill Street, it causes the traffic to back up even more. Today's drivers are amazing. When we did the trial on the no left turns out of Captain's Neck and Lee Avenue and put cones up, people just driving through the cones like, let's go. Who cares? There's a lot of, obviously in the entire world today, there's a lot less respect for rules and following regulations. But we must reduce the cut-through traffic. And clearly, whatever solutions that we can come up with from professionals like NPV in our own community and people thinking about it. A lot of people have said, why don't we have cameras? So every time people make a right turn, they get fined. That'd stop it pretty quickly. I agree. Unfortunately, you can't put a camera up to stop people at a stop sign. It has to be a red light. We'd have to put red lights at those intersections. Do we want red lights all the way up and down Hill Street? That's something the community is going to have to decide. Another person to me said, why don't we, the worse you make Hill Street, it sounds crazy, but the worse you make Hill Street, the more people are going to stay on 39 because Hill Street won't be a shortcut. Well, for all of our residents, do we really want Hill Street to be an impassable? Well, if that's the price we have to pay to put the cut-through traffic down, maybe that's worth it, but it's a community decision that has to be made. But it's a very knotty problem, and I understand every sentiment that was expressed tonight, and I thank you all for your concern and what you said. Lastly, and it sort of ties into this, I look at what's going on in Los Angeles. It's stunning to me, and my heart goes out to all the people there and what's going on. But the amazing thing to me is what is so many sentiments is we could have seen this coming. We knew this was going to happen. Sooner or later, we knew this was, this was going to go on. And I see with the traffic here in this village, I had the same sense of foreboding. When there's an accident on 39, it's a disaster. And if anything really bad happened out here, like a hurricane or a natural disaster, how are we all going to get out of here? And you can see this coming. And this is not obviously something that this board and this village can solve. But county legislator, state legislator, the people have to take a look at this part of the world and realize we are heading into an untenable situation that has grave safety consequences. And I know Bill, the mayor, is working with legislators, but everybody in this community needs to get on board and let your higher officials know that we need them to take action to increase the access to this area and to ramp up public transport and just make it possible for people to get in and out of this area should a devastating disaster occur. So with that happy news, I wish you all a happy new year, and let's work together to make things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. Trustee Zananti.
Thank you, Mayor. In an effort to continue the conversation and solicit additional community feedback, we will be reconvening our traffic committee, the Village Traffic Mitigation Committee, in the next weeks to get community feedback on the most recent proposals and to continue the conversation. So thank you. With respect to the cell tower, the project is underway. The field work has been completed for the cell tower, and Diamond Communications, our vendor, is going to develop the appropriate survey material and start the land use process probably by the end of January, early February. Looking at the village budget and the way it operates, the village administrator and I have decided to work together to try to understand the telecommunications and technology costs that the village is incurring for telephone, Wi-Fi, etc. And so we're looking to consolidate and economize on these costs, and we've just begun that process. And I look forward to hopefully becoming more efficient that way. And lastly, I just want to say that I enjoyed attending the Downs Park Playground ribbon cutting ceremony for our new beautiful playground. In fact, I loved it so much, I actually brought friends and family down to see it, and I congratulate the DPW workers who put a great asset together for our village. And with that, I wish everyone a happy and healthy New Year, and good night.
Thank you, Trustee Zananti. I would just add that, yes, I thank all of you for coming tonight. It means a lot when people take out the time out of their busy lives to come and want to address the board. So I appreciate everybody and their heartfelt sentiments regarding these very difficult issues. I would, just to tap into what Trustee Zananti was saying, I would recommend people to take a ride up to Downs Family Park, because I do think it really does look great. It's a brand new playground with artificial turf that really simulates grass much better than AstroTurf. And it's a great addition to the eastern part of the village. We're also looking to put a similar playground in Moses Park. Moses Park, you may recall, was purchased with CPF money, preserving that land as open space as opposed to another development. And the town is looking over the plans because they have to approve them. But I think we are very close to getting final sign-off from the town, and we will be able to move forward with, again, a playground at Moses Park, as well as 2 bocce courts, which will enhance opportunities for people for recreation in the village. But it will mostly remain a very, very quiet pastoral space with walking paths that will be enhanced for the public to enjoy. We will also be making some additional enhancements to the playground at Agawam Park, especially adding some different equipment that can be used by handicapped younger people as well. I did receive a letter from somebody that we don't have things in that park that can be used by her child, and so that seems to make sense. So we will be adding some additional equipment at Agawam Park. In terms of the trees, we're talking about tree legislation. I just want to give you the number of trees that were planted in 2024, and I have to really commend John Flick and the whole Parks Department of the village for doing this. We planted, my goal to them was 200 trees. They planted 214. I mean, I think that's extraordinary, especially when last year we got up to 187. And in the previous year, before I was mayor, only 90 trees were planted. So we have more than doubled the number of trees planted in this village, and that will be something for future generations to enjoy as well as they grow and mature. So I did want to mention that. In terms of the traffic, again, the problem is just the volume of cars. I did drive, and I maybe mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. I did drive up to Hop Hog with Jerry Larson, the mayor of the village of East Hampton, and also Charlie McCardle, the town highway superintendent of highways. And we talked to County Executive Ed Romaine, as well as all of his advisors that deal with traffic, engineers. And we took maps and plans, and we said we've got to figure out how to augment County Road 39. Because if we can keep people north of the village, it will solve many, many problems. So he is working diligently with his engineers at the county level to come up with an alternative plan for 39 that I think should be out maybe sometime even later this winter, early spring. Now, it's going to take a long time to get that work done. There's a lot of financial aid that's going to be needed from everywhere from Washington to Albany, because it's going to be a very expensive project. But I do want everyone to know that I did go with the mayor of East Hampton, and we really worked very hard. We spent probably an hour going over maps and looking at different situations on County Road 39 to figure out how that road can be helped. You know, one of the plans is to build an additional road along the high-tension power lines that runs north of County Road 39. In fact, it runs sort of in a V shape, an upside-down V shape, from Southampton to a spot about halfway between Bridgehampton and Sag Harbor, and then comes down towards East Hampton. And that is, again, used for the high-tension power lines, but there is a right-of-way there that's controlled by the state, And if we were able to use that for a limited access highway to get people to get all the way out to East Hampton, Amagansett, Montauk without having to come near Southampton Village, I think that would be great. And then working in reverse so that they can, again, get to the canal without having to come through Southampton Village. So it's a very involved plan, but they are indeed working on this plan, and I'm hoping, like as I said, that we'll see something later this winter or early spring. That being said, I also have to mention that National Grid will be doing a gas main improvement on Hampton Road. So that will have to be opened up, and we have told them they are not to do it during the summer. They have to get it done before the summer. It's going to be basically from Main Street going east there, I think maybe even as far as Old Town. But we are getting them to do the work at night, so it will not be done during the day. But obviously, I think some of the traffic pattern is going to have to be rearranged while the work is ongoing, even though they'll only be working at night. And we have plans also to repave all of Hampton Road. National Grid will give us the money to repave the portion that they disturb, but then I'm also putting aside some money to repave the entire length of Hampton Road with again, better bike lanes and things like that. So I think that will be a great enhancement to Hampton Road, but unfortunately we will have to suffer through National Grid tearing it up for a little while. And finally, you may have noticed that we do have work going on the stoplight at the corner of Job's Lane and Main Street. Hink Electric, who is putting in this light, tells me that they will be able to do it within the month. We'll see if that really happens. This has been going on for a while, but it is supposed to be an antique-looking street light with walk and don't walk signs for that intersection. Hopefully making that intersection much safer when people cross it, either going towards J. McLaughlin or the First Presbyterian Church, or again, the History Museum. So there will be walk and don't walk signs that are part of this new configuration that's going to go up. So we are trying to do things to make traffic in the village safer, and making sure that people know when they should be crossing the street and not just walking out into the crosswalk. With that being said, again, I want to just commend the fire department and the ambulance and ocean rescue for all the work they do, for the election that they just had, electing these different officers to their positions. I was glad that they can be inducted tonight, and I can assure everybody in the village that they do their utmost to serve this community, whether it be a fire or ambulance. They were on the scene immediately after this woman was hit on Somerset. They got her by ambulance to the college, where the helicopter was able to land, pick her up, and take her to Stony Brook. And again, these are all volunteers. It's amazing they do this. So I just want to thank them for all they do. And with that, I will thank everybody and wish everyone a happy 2025 and good night.